I think that data center energy efficiency is holistic and it's across the board. And I think the EU Code of Conduct for Data Centers Energy Efficiency best practices provide a very good structure for that. So we're looking at management practices, we're looking at IT equipment, we're looking at cooling, we're looking at DC power equipment, we're looking at other power equipment, we're looking at the design of the facility, and lastly and most importantly, we're looking at the monitoring and metrics and measurement of energy data and thermal data as well. So, those best practices, as I said earlier, they're widespread, they're easy to achieve, and that's the simplest way of doing it. The one thing I would say is, though, you need to get somebody that understands how the code works in order to implement it properly. There's no point just implementing one or two best practices from each section. It needs to be done in a structured, formatted approach. And you start off with getting your management practices, your service take on, your decommissioning practices sorted out, because every kilowatt you don't use is a kilowatt saved. And if you've got servers in there, like they're known as zombie servers, of which US research says that there's 30% of zombie servers in a data center, there's energy efficiency straight away. You can take out 30%, you're going to reduce your energy bill by 30%. Plus, it's not just the 30% from the servers, it's the 30% in the reduction in the cooling that you now don't need because of those servers. So it's a win-win. But it needs to be a structured program, and you do need to think about how you're going to do this. This is not something you can probably integrate into BAU sort of work. It needs to be a project. But once you've got the basic principles all sorted, then energy efficiency should be just embedded into the way that you do stuff. It's as simple as that. Steve's referred earlier about enterprises. They've got the biggest opportunity for energy savings. Colos less so, but that's largely because of their marketing plan with the caged environment. That doesn't lend itself to energy efficiency, and unfortunately I've been into facilities where they've got wonderful containment systems, but cages with blank panels that are blocking airflow. So, yes, it worked in the past. I think we need to be a little bit more sophisticated in what we do moving forward. But the Code of Conduct is my Bible. It's what I'd use all the time. I think we need to remember that all of the other global energy efficiency programs have their roots from the EU Code of Conduct. It's the oldest one, and it still works on today. Lots of people from the industry contribute to it. It's used more widely than I mentioned earlier, with 400 participants. But it's there. Get out and use it.
I think it's an interesting question, because over the last probably 5 or 6 years, actually the data center sector has been continually trying to improve. The metrics such as PUE, which although to an extent could be seen as something which is more of a marketing metric, has actually helped to focus, I suppose, people's minds on making sure that their facilities are as energy efficient as possible, especially within the colo market, where obviously they're driven by profits. That they obviously have a keen focus on making sure that their facilities are as efficient as possible. However, I would be inclined to say that actually we've kind of reached a point where a lot of the low-hanging fruit has been achieved within the commercial world of data centers in respect to co-location facilities, and it now needs a little bit of help from the server side to see any more radical changes or improvements. That doesn't mean to say that from an enterprise point of view there isn't a huge amount more that can be done. So they have less of a, because of the facilities way data centers are run, it's a facilities cost. Energy, for example, is a utility cost which is hidden from most of the data center managers, and therefore there's not necessarily the motivation to try and make those improvements. So it's our role to try and make sure that they are as educated as possible, and work that we've been doing with John and his team to help to educate and promote that is just one of those areas.